Welcome to Say It So They Get It, the podcast where we help business owners clearly explain what they do, who they help, and what makes them different. I'm your host, Sean Deegan, and today I'm joined by Michael Medicare Mike Serino. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sean. Glad to be here.
So before we get too far into the Medicare and your branding, which is an awesome story, I really wanted to share with everybody how we met, because I think it's at the tone of how long we've been friends and stuff we've been through together. I was with the Sheriff's Department here in Pima County. We were working on trying to get our own therapy canine program. Mike, we met when you were with Centene at the time, right?
Yep. I was with
And
17 at the time.
you became the champion inside that organization. And I'm just going to tell everybody, if it wasn't for you, and I know there's other players, but I don't think that we would have had the program that we ended up with there if it wasn't for you and your just constant support for what we did. And I want to let people know that through that, I was able to become the first certified law enforcement officer in the state of Arizona that had a therapy canine. We ended up growing the program to 5 dogs total, which was phenomenal. We ended up having 2 at the jail and 2 in the schools, which were perfect things. And then we actually got to go and do some travel and talk about the program. And those were some really great trips. So I just wanted to say thanks for your friendship. You've always been somebody I can count on. And really, today I want to dig into Medicare Mike, because you worked for Centene and then it was what, Arizona Complete Health?
Arizona Complete Health was one of Centene's subsidiary companies. It was our local brand. So they brand everything very much so at a national level. They're Centene, but at a local level, every state has their own brand. And so Arizona Complete Health was their local brand.
Well, I was deployed in the Middle East and things went sideways with the program due to some change in the sheriff's department, nothing that
Yep.
anybody else did. All of a sudden, I started seeing Medicare Mike, and that's branding. So let's go back to those days. And where did that come from? Where'd you get that?
I actually can't take hardly any credit for it. Some background, I was working for Centene, working on their community relations team. While you were deployed, had transitioned over to the sales team and moved into the Medicare space as a broker for Centene. My now wife and I, who had barely started dating at the time, we were sitting around and she said to me, "You know what you should do? You should really come up with like a creative name to, kind of brand yourself." And I was like, "That's dumb. No, I'm not doing that." She's like, "What if you called yourself Medicare Mike?" And I was like, "That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life." And about a week or two went by and I got a phone call and I answered the call. I was like, "Good afternoon. This is Michael Serino. How can I help you?" This guy was like, "Is this Medicare Mike?" And I was like, you know, "It is Medicare Mike. Yeah, what can I do for you?" And he ended up being one of my first customers. But really, all the credit for the like actual Medicare Mike name comes from my wife. She came up with it. She gets all the credit for it. It was her idea. I thought it was dumb. She had this idea. She should, whenever you meet with a client and you sell them a policy, you should bring everybody a bag of M&Ms. I still never got around to the M&Ms, but that's kind of where this all started. And it was like, make it memorable, make it something they remember. And to date, I don't go anywhere where nobody knows my real name anymore. It's actually kind of sad. The number of times I will get on a call and I'll say, "Hey, it's Michael Serino." And they're like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Medicare Mike." And they're like, "What's up, Medicare Mike? How are you?" It is very much so grown into its own persona. Friends call me Medicare Mike. Family calls me Medicare Mike. Clients only know me as Medicare Mike. Funny story. I had somebody recently got an email, and my email all comes across as Medicare Mike now, but they saw something with my license come across as Michael Serino and they thought it was spam. They were like, "Who's this Michael Serino guy? Like, we don't know this guy. We know Medicare Mike." And it's really kind of taken on a personality of its own, which has been a super big blessing. I love it. It's been a lot of fun, but the wifey gets all the credit for it, man. I'm not that creative. She gets all the credit for it.
Well, good for Christine. That's awesome. I remember everything that came out and that you did back then. You actually had a little cartoon Medicare Mike, which was an image of yourself. The colors were branded. Even today with the brand on your shirt, it's the kind of the blue and red. And
Red, white,
were
and
you
blue,
wearing were
baby.
you wearing Vans? Were you wearing Vans in one of those
I am
pictures?
wearing Vans in one of them. There's a
Yeah.
story there's a story to the Vans too.
Let's share that.
Okay, so I grew up in Southern California. I always wore Vans as a kid. I got a couple tattoos. I don't look like your normal insurance broker. I don't run my business like a normal insurance broker. When I worked for Centene, you knew me back then. I wore suits and ties every day. It was very stuffy, polished shoes, suits and ties. And that's just, it's not me. It's not my personality. It's not who I want to be. I grew up wearing Vans. I started my company and I said, I'm never wearing a suit and tie again if I don't have to, and I'm going to wear Vans to work. And it started as kind of a joke in my branding, in my actual avatar that I use as part of the logo for the Medicare Mike team brand. My little avatar, when it was first designed, he was wearing dress shoes. And I told the designer, I said, you got to put him in Vans because I'm going to wear Vans everywhere I go. Like Vans are my thing. They're part of the brand. Somewhat selfishly, I was like, I wanted to be part of my uniform. It's a tax write
Right.
off. I love my Vans. I've worn Vans since I was a kid. They're fun. They're checkered. They're not normal. And now they became part of the brand. Not too long ago, I had somebody actually stop me and she was like, "Where's your Vans?" And I was wearing just like regular plain black Vans that were not checkered. And she's like, "Where's
Right.
your Vans? You always have different colored Vans on." And I was like, "Oh my God, like this really has become so much a part of the brand and the image. And with branding, it's really easy to forget about the little details. I'm like, yeah, my shirts all say Medicare Mike team and I wear my Vans, but I didn't realize how much the Vans had become part of the brand. I support a couple different nonprofits that have to do with either first responders or dogs. It's kind of part of our mission is to support those things, and had to put on a suit for the first time in I don't know how long. And I wore it with Vans. And people were like, oh,
Awesome.
Mike's got his Vans on. We never see Mike without his Vans on. We're at
Yeah.
this black tie, tuxedo dinner, and I've got black and white checkered Vans on. And they're like, we'd expect nothing less. Like it's part of the brand.
What I really love about it is there are people that try to brand themselves and it almost doesn't tie to their business.
Yep.
And what you've been able to do, and the great thing about Medicare, Mike, is it has become the business. And
Mhm.
on this show, the whole purpose is telling people what you do, and branding is so much a part of that. As long as it's in line with what you're doing, and you have
100%.
hit the nail on the head. Like your whole story there, it's exactly that. Like people know Medicare, Mike. Well, it's in the name what you do,
Yep.
but the branding and the style and the dress is all part of that. So when you go to these other events, you're wearing Vans and people accept that that's Medicare Mike, right? So wherever you are, your brand is front facing in what you're doing. And that's
100%.
the power of it, right? Because that's what people want when they do marketing. They want to stand out. And it's obviously a success for you in being able to get that brand to do that.
You have to differentiate yourself. And I feel like, and I'm speaking just specific to my industry, my industry is boring. This is about as dry as it gets is selling health insurance. I'm not a dry personality. I know I have a big personality. I know I'm a lot. It's not uncommon for somebody to be like, Mike's a lot. There's a lot going on. I never had drinks with somebody and then been like, wow, that guy's got no energy. And so when I started this, again, I came from suits and ties. Like you do not show up without a tie on. And I remember just being like, this is just not my style, man. Like I don't do suits and ties. And when I went into business for myself and I started Medicare Mike, I knew that I wanted to disrupt the industry a little bit. I knew that I wanted to do something very different. Everywhere you go, especially the Medicare industry, there's 7,000 health insurance brokers in the city of Phoenix alone. And what I noticed is everybody had the same thing. Everybody's got a white business card on heavyweight font with a 10-year-old headshot in a suit and tie, and they're all peddling the same thing. Valley Insurance Advisors or that health insurance. And it's boring and it's not fun. I'll tell you, I got a lot of flack. When I first came out with my business, I got a lot of flack from a lot of people, and people told me I was nuts. They're like, you're crazy. This is way too overdone. You've got a cartoon character. What are you thinking? I was like, I don't know, but I'm going to see if it works. And I'll tell you that it stands out and people love it. I'm consistently one of the fastest growing agencies in Arizona. I am one of the largest agencies in Arizona. I started 4 short seems like 40, but just started 4 years ago. It all has to do with the brand and the way
Yeah.
that it stands out. I've always said health insurance done different. It's very different. At least once a week, this happens. Somebody comes to my office and they walk in and I'm like, hey, how are you? I'm Michael. Grab a seat. I'll be there in a second. And they look at me and they're like, you're the health insurance guy? I'm like, I know. Weird, huh? Most people in my industry are older, usually in their second or third career. They're very stuffy, suit and tie, white business card with Times New Roman font and an outdated headshot. And it's boring. It's not fun. They
Yeah.
come into my office and usually my corgi puppy's with me. And the puppy greets them at the door. They come in and I've got tattoos and a golf shirt and a pair of Vans on. Somebody this week, she was like, I interviewed 4 different health insurance brokers and you're by far the most knowledgeable. She said, I almost didn't call you because this guy's got to be too good to be true. I saw the Google reviews. I saw the website. He's got to be this massive conglomerate. And it turns out you've got an office here locally and you're just a normal guy. You never tried to sell me anything. You don't look a certain way. I didn't feel off put by your looks. And it all comes back to that brand, right? That's how I designed it. Everything I did was very intentional. And I tell people if you're looking for the super stuffy traditional insurance broker that's just going to sell you whatever he gets the best commission on and you're never going to hear from him again, great. There's 6,999 of those out there. If you want somebody who's going to be really real with you, who's going to make this process fun, and who's going to be here to answer your questions long term and wants to build a relationship, then I'm your guy. But
Yeah.
what you see is what you get.
One of the things I talk to people when I coach them, and one of the first areas we address is this. And what we call it in my coaching business is a market dominating position. It's what sets you above the noise. And that's what you've been able to do. Piggybacking on your story there, you've always been in the business and you lead with helping other people, whether
Yeah.
it was just the whole purpose behind the therapy program. Ronald McDonald House, you wore red shoes and the red and white striped socks. There was always this service to others. And I see that in what you're doing now, but where do you think that comes from? Because a lot of people don't have that. Like you said, in your industry, and I could name several other very parallel type industries where it's you look at a headshot on a business card and you're like, was this 30 years ago? And again, it's the same thing. It's not just the brand, it's also what you bring and it's that service. And it really speaks through the way that you conduct your business. And I'm going to tell you, your success is based on all of this, but none more than your dedication to serving the people that you're working with.
100%. And I will tell you that is the market dominating position. It all comes down to customer service. And we like to say our kind of tagline in the company, it's on my website, it's on my email signature, it says with a heart of service. And everything starts and stops with service. No matter what it is, whether it's Adrian who answers the phones at the office to when we sit down with a client, no matter what it is, everything is led with a heart of service. Where that comes from, I don't know that I have a good answer to that. I don't know that I honestly have a great answer to that because it's not something I was raised with. I think if anything, it's been something I've kind of developed throughout my life. Coming from kind of a rough upbringing, it's been something that I developed to differentiate myself and do something different. I will also say throughout my throughout my career, and you're included in this group, I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by some of the best mentors and some of the best people that I've been able to call friends. And they all kind of operate with that high level of service, right? And it's kind of the service above self thing, whether it was you at the police department or my uncle who's got a really successful executive coaching practice or doing what I was able to do in my previous career. I had a job where for 5 years I got to give money away for a living and it was somebody else's money, right?
Yeah.
I got to lead corporate social responsibility for a Fortune 100 company and I had a lot of freedom and flexibility to build cool things. Like we got to build a nationally recognized therapy canine program. It's one of the
Yeah.
highlights of my careers. There's not one specific thing I can point to where I started wanting to take care of people. It's really been something I think I've kind of developed and nurtured and learned from the people around me over throughout my career. For whatever reason, it's always been really important to me. It started with the Ronald McDonald House. I think if I had to point to like one thing, I will say early in my career, I worked for a nonprofit hospital system and I learned the ins and outs of fundraising and what the hospital did to support all kinds of different programs, especially in a nonprofit hospital. There's just a lot of programs that go unfunded that can't be funded by insurance companies. And so
Mhm.
we fundraise to support those programs. One was the Ronald McDonald House Charities. And I was fortunate enough to work on a $1 million capital campaign to build a Ronald McDonald House family room in our hospital. And just seeing the impact of what that service has on families, especially families in need, really kind of triggered something to me that was like, this is the way to do business, man. If you can just take care of people, and I think especially right now, in an era where we're also dependent on technology. I use Claude every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't use AI and I don't
Right.
use technology. But in a world where we've all become so disconnected, finding a way to bring back the human element and really hone in on that service aspect is, I think, is not something that gets forgotten. And I think that my clientele in particular, I work mostly with people who are retiring. They still appreciate the extra mile and the extra step and the extra service. I ask every client, how'd you find me? Oh, I asked Chat GPT, who is the best insurance broker around? And they're like, Medicare Mike is known for his service. And we called and somebody answered the phone. I didn't have to go through a phone tree. We called and somebody picked up the phone. Do you know how rare that is? I'm like, yeah. Adrian literally has a sticker on her laptop that says, answer the damn phone. That is your number one job, is to answer the phone. And it's crazy that that little piece of customer service now has become so rare that it actually starts to set you apart.
You've shared with me some of your upbringing, and I will say that the thing that impresses me the most, and one of the things I want people to understand is that didn't define who you are. For people out there that may be thinking, I don't have the opportunities, the way you've been able to recreate yourself more than once, right? The underlying tone sure puts to rest the fact that you're a result of your upbringing. I think
Mhm.
you're just the opposite. You took that,
100%.
you've turned it into such a powerful message and a powerful spirit of providing for other people and caring for people. And
Yeah.
even your comment about answering the phone, it's all part of it. It's
Yeah.
part of who you are. It's part of who your business is. And again, for people that are out there thinking maybe they don't have a chance of doing something, I'm just going to say you've crushed that whole ideology.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I take a lot of pride in that because for all intents and purposes, everybody's got a sob story, right? God knows I've got a good one. Did I have it as bad as some people? No. Did I have it worse than others? Absolutely. Even Christine and I laugh. We joke sometimes about she had a pretty blessed upbringing and I had a pretty rough one. And we laugh about it sometimes. Even certain things for her are triggering. And I'm like, really? That's it? But everybody's got their own story, right? Nobody is without having some sort of trauma and some sort of negative life experience, but it's what you do with it. And it would have been very easy for me to say, man, I was dealt a shitty hand of cards and kind of give
Right.
up on it. But instead, I want to do something different. I want to build something different. I want to build my own thing. And I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I put myself through college. I remember being a kid and saying, I want to go to college. And it was always an expectation to go to college, but my family didn't pay for my college. Like I paid for my own college. Most of my family barely graduated high school. I come from a very middle class, blue collar background. They were like, you want to go to school, man. That's the expectation. If I didn't get straight A's, I was in trouble, which is probably why I'm such an overachiever now. Definitely has something to do with it, but straight A's were just the expectation, and it was the expectation I went to school, and it was the expectation that I succeeded, but at the same time, when I got out of high school, I rebelled. I dropped out of college. I didn't go back to school until I was 22 when I went back to school. I put myself through college. I finished my undergrad in 3 years. I went and found a job and worked my ass off and did the right thing, but even starting this company, I started at 0. There is no secret angel investor out there. There is no background. People ask, how'd you do it, man? You're doing so well now. Blood, sweat, and American Express, baby. You do what you got to do. And I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
when you're hungry and you want something, you're going to go get it, but you got to be hungry and you got to want
Right.
it and you got to want to do something different. And thankfully, it panned out for me. I don't also take for granted that there's a little bit of luck that comes with that too. You got to have
Mhm.
a little bit of luck, but you got to really have a lot of heart to want to do it. And anybody out there listening that wants to do it, whatever it is, you can do it, but you've got to be willing to grind. You've got to be willing to put in the work. Starting a business is not sunshine and rainbows, man. There's been a lot of late nights.
Are you quoting Sylvester Stallone there?
Maybe. Not intentionally, but maybe. But yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, man. People see the cool stuff, right? People see the cool website. People see I'm very open about my life is very public. I don't hide anything. People see that Christine and I are able to travel now, but they don't see the 16, 18-hour days and when I was sitting at the desk grinding away building that website and
Mhm.
trying to design stuff and trying to figure it out and all the times that I failed. And I fail all the time. I have an office in Scottsdale right now that I opened because I thought I was going to expand to Scottsdale. And I think I've been in it once this year. And no, that was a little bit of a screw up on my part. Didn't work out. That's not my market, but you win some, you lose some. I like to call
Right.
it the dummy tax. Everybody's got to pay their dummy tax.
It's the grind, it's the purpose behind what you do. But one of the things I really want to focus on, and I think too many business owners get to the point where they don't do the stuff that you're doing. A guy I'm coaching right now, I asked him, when's the last time you just took an evening to spend with your wife? You're constantly on the phone, you're constantly chasing more jobs. We get in business for that freedom. I don't know
Mhm.
anybody that gets into their own business and entrepreneurship with the idea that all I want to do is work 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. Now,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, there are weeks that are like that. But
Yeah.
the reason we get into that is so that you can take the trips, you can spend the time doing it. And too many times we get so consumed in that, we forget that. So, you tell me about your trip that you guys just came back on. I'm so happy that you get to do that and experience those things,
Mhm.
and you and Christine get to go share those because you work hard,
Yep.
but you do it for that reason. To me, that's the ultimate goal, right? What are you getting
100%.
into it for? Sure, I want to be successful. What does that mean? That means time with the people that we love. And you are an adventure guy, right? You want to go out, explore things. Certainly, I'm not going to eat the fermented shark in Iceland. So thanks for that tip. So when you're working with somebody, what do you hope that they say after you're done with the appointment or setting them up for their insurance? If it was a Google review, what do you want people to say about the experience of working with you?
Okay. We're going to come back to that in a second, but I want to touch on what you said before that. One of the best pieces of advice that I got early on was two things. Number one, especially for people that are starting their business, number one, what is your what and what is your why? But also, what is your number? What is your number that you need? And it took me a long time to figure out what my number was. I was that guy. I wanted to build the biggest health insurance agency in the country. I was going to go national. I was going to build the biggest thing anybody had ever seen, and I was going to be a gazillionaire. I really thought that's what I wanted. And the more that I sat down and looked at my what, which is my why is everything we do is with a heart of service, and I do it to be a servant to the people that we serve. My what is Porsches and Rolexes are really expensive. I like Porsches and Rolexes, and they're really expensive, but that's my what. That's what drives me. For some people, they're like, my what is I've got two kids I got to put through college. One of my
Mhm.
agents that works for me, he's got two little girls. He would bend over backwards. I love it. I'm like, I don't have kids. I have dogs instead of kids. But know what your what is, know what your why is, but also like the most important thing you can figure out is what is your number and work backwards. Figure out what your number is. And oftentimes when I've had this conversation with other entrepreneurs and I have a circle of friends that are entrepreneurs, and we have this conversation all the time about oh, it's just such a grind. It's this, it's that. Like, what is your number? What number do you need to hit? Figure that number out because if you can reverse engineer that number, oftentimes you figure out that it's not as far away as you think it is, and you don't have to work that hard. If your thing is you want to live in a multi-million-dollar mansion in Paradise Valley, great. Like, respect. If you want to be Elon Musk, go for it, dude. Respect. I'm going to support you. I'm going to help you. Whatever I can do to be there to be part of that journey. But I think for most of us, we want to live comfortably and we want the freedom to do what we want to do. I'm pretty fortunate. I like going to the gym at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. And so I go to the gym at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. I like going on vacation with my wife. So I've built my business around my life, not my life around my business.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that is so easily lost when people go into business for themselves that they lose sight of like what's really important and what's that number.
Right.
But what do I want people to say about me and my business? Hey, my business is very specifically structured where I don't do a lot of advertising. I work almost exclusively on word of mouth referrals. So Google is an incredibly powerful tool. I ask every single customer that I meet with, I always ask for a 5-star Google review. I've got 150 or so of them now. I really just started that maybe 2 years ago. Uh,
Hmm.
that was again a Christine thing. Christine was like, "Hey, you should really ask for Google reviews." And I was like, "Nobody does." She was like, "No, every time I go somewhere, I read a Google review about it." And I was like, "That's dumb." The number of clients I get because they're like, "I saw your Google reviews," is mind-blowing. But I want those people to say he was the kind of almost the opposite of what most people think. He was not salesy. I come from a sales background. I come from a corporate sales background. ABC, always be closing. The preemptive close when you talk to somebody. I talk to clients every single day and I tell them, here's the information, take it home and think about it. Take it home, talk to your wife, talk to your neighbor, find out what they did. Talk to them about all the information I presented, sit with it, and give me a call next week and let's circle back. And I want you to feel comfortable with this decision. So when I get those Google reviews, 9 times out of 10, they say he wasn't pushy, he wasn't salesy, he was
Hmm.
extremely knowledgeable. I don't mean this in a cocky way, but I follow the legislation. I stay up to date on what I'm doing. It's not just my mandatory CEs. I love my business and I'm really passionate about what we do. So I try and be the most informed guy in the room. I'm also informed enough to know that I'm also not the smartest guy in the room either. So I surround myself with really good people. I follow a lot of people that I get a daily digest. It's called the healthcare deep dive. I get a daily digest of everything happening in the health insurance world today, and I make sure to at least skim it every morning. I always want to try and be as informed as possible while also knowing that I can learn something new. I had a client today out of 1,000 Medicare clients that I have. It was the first time I ever ran into this situation. It was really specific, had to do with her income. And normally we would handle this way. Actually, the opposite is true for you. We're not going to handle it this way. But I'm
Wow.
also well informed enough to know when I need to ask questions and I need to get the right answers for people.
I think we've hit everything. I just want to say once again, thank you for being on here. And for those people out there that don't have a Christine, they better find one because it sounds like that's the some of the big nuggets for you. But it's so true. Like
It
the
goes
person
with
that you
it, man.
spend your
Your
time
home
with.
life, when you're starting this thing, your home life is your center. If
Oh,
home life isn't good, nothing's good. And it's going to come out in your business. And again, it's not all been sunshine and rainbows all the time. This is hard. I don't ever want, I think I shared something on Instagram today and it said, life is hard, make it harder, start your own company. It's not easy, but when you have somebody to lean into that can be your voice, can be the voice of reason. I got super lucky, man. I know how I met Christine. Think is the best thing that ever happened in my career at Centene, besides the therapy dog program, which by the way, little tangent, I still have a picture from that program hanging in my office. And I tell
awesome.
that story at least 2 or 3 times a week because people ask me if those are my dogs. And I'm like, they're not my dogs, but let me tell you a story about the highlight of my career. But yes, everybody needs a Christine. Everybody also talking about just grinding and not getting away and not taking the time with your family. Best advice I ever got was hire an assistant, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person. My buddy Tony's a very successful real estate agent. He told me early on, he said, Mike, you need an assistant before you need an assistant. And I was like, you're crazy, dude. Until I had an Adrian, two of the key parts of my business are my Christine and my Adrian. Like if you can have somebody to just offload just anything you can offload, man, just offload it. It's
Yeah.
okay. The business ain't going anywhere. It's going to be there when you get back. And not everybody, when you're starting out, we weren't going on nice vacations when we started out, but date night looked like we like craft beer. We'd take the dogs and go to our favorite brewery and have a beer. Schedule the fun first. It's so
Yeah.
important because it gets lost. If you don't schedule fun first, it gets lost. So
Awesome. Well, great advice. And once again, I appreciate you not only for being on the show, but just everything that you've done. I appreciate you and your friendship over the years. You are definitely somebody that I don't hesitate to text or whatever, if just a sound piece of advice or even a, hey, bro, how's it going?
how's it
Always kind of
going?
makes makes my day. So thanks for joining us on Say It So They Get It, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Awesome, man. Thanks